Minecraft has its fair share of interesting mechanics, features, and Easter eggs, so in this video I'll show you 20 crazy Minecraft facts you didn't know about. Now I'm sure you've been going through the forest in Minecraft before, seen a wolf, and then see it attack a sheep, as of course wolves are carnivores, so they attack that to get the mutton. However, something very interesting that the wolf can also do is if it's nighttime, the wolf will actually target skeletons. That's right, now you may be wondering why would they be targeting skeletons? Well, it's of course because dogs like eating bones, and so because of that, that wolf is trying to get the bones of the skeleton, as you can see. And because that skeleton is preoccupied with running away from the wolf, it won't actually target the player either, sort of what creepers do when they're being scared by a cat. And so just make sure to give that good dog what it deserves for killing the skeleton for you. The Badlands biome in Minecraft, also known as the Mesa biome, is definitely one of the most unique in the game. And also a big part of it is the pattern of terracotta on the sides of the cliffs. And so something interesting about this pattern is it's not the same across every Minecraft world, but it is the same across every seed. So for instance, we can pick out a pattern right here. We have 2 yellow, then one of standard terracotta, then orange, then standard, then orange, and then it ends on with red. So here we are very far away. I believe this is about 50,000 blocks away in a different mesa biome, and you can see we have 2 yellow, then the brown, orange, and it ending off with red. Basically all the standard terracotta on the top layer here is sort of like how dirt generates in most biomes. It has nothing to do with the underlying pattern of the terracotta. And when the terracotta's height changes, that's basically because the pattern is not associated with a specific Y level. The texture of almost every villager workstation is somewhat based on a specific wood type. For instance, right here we can clearly see that the cartography table is based off of the planks of the dark oak. But something interesting about this pattern in general is the fact that the texture is reversed. It's the exact same texture, but it is rotated 90 degrees. And so because of that, if you're looking at the back of these cartography tables, what you could technically do is make a lot of really good textures and patterns out of them by basically utilizing this strange 90 degrees twisted planks texture. Overall, it does look like you've taken the standard texture and flipped it, which I think can come up with some very nice effects. For instance, this pattern here I think looks quite good, or you could even do a very simple checkerboarding pattern. Looking at the globe on the side of this cartography table, it reminds me that there are people all around the world that are not subscribed to my channel, even if they watch my videos, and because of that they can miss out on a lot of my new uploads and some of the Minecraft facts, tips and tricks, guides and tutorials that I put out. But if you turn on notifications and subscribe, then you'll never miss my videos in the future. Another interesting fact that does revolve around the cartography table is that the cartography villager will sell you the globe banner pattern. Now you may already know this, but what is more interesting than that is this confirms the way that Minecraft's world zoomed out has often been portrayed as a square, and so the idea would be is that Minecraft's world is not circular but actually a cube, and this banner pattern proves this, because if we put on the globe banner pattern, it's actually square. You can sort of see what I think's maybe meant to be South America, North America, and Africa, although it's really just meant to look like sort of vague land masses overall. And so what's really cool about this is that this does confirm that Minecraft's world is indeed a square. I'm not sure which side of the square we would be on, as Minecraft's world is flat, although it would be a pretty crazy thing if you got to the edge of the Minecraft world and the entire thing suddenly flipped 90 degrees downwards. If your particles are turned all the way up and you land on a block from a large fall distance, there'll be some particles that are at your feet to sort of show that there is some bit of dirt that's being moved around or whatever. This effect is not the same when you land in a liquid. There are just some little particles that appear. However, an interesting fact with both lava and water is that you can glitch it to make it look like you do have those particles from landing in it. So for instance right here, if we drop so that our crosshair is technically on the lava, but our hitbox would hit the stone so we don't fall into the lava, you'll notice right there we had lava particles that broke up from the surface and dispersed around. But you can do the exact same thing with water as well if you can land correctly, and so it's an interesting Easter egg that although lava and water are not supposed to give you those particles, you can kind of show that the game really does just calculate that based off of where your crosshair is, and that lava and water are treated as normal blocks in that way. It's always fun to catch an axolotl in a bucket, and then when when you place it back down, maybe at your base or at an aquarium, it does maintain the same color as it's the same axolotl. However, something interesting is that when you pick up something in a bucket, it saves more than just the color of that axolotl. So if we breed two axolotls, let's say the brown one here and the white one here, basically when we get that baby axolotl, I'm just gonna keep this in, that is literally a very incredibly rare axolotl. That's the blue type. What the fact is though, is if you pick up that incredibly rare axolotl in a bucket as a baby, and you place it back down, then it will stay as a baby, meaning that when you pick up axolotls in buckets, it not only saves their color, but it also saves their age, meaning that really we don't have a bucket of axolotl, but a bucket of baby axolotl. And so I guess those are two facts in one. And what's the craziest Minecraft fact that you know? Be sure to leave it in the comments below to share it with other players. Sometime when you're raiding an end city, you may wonder why oftentimes in the chest there'll be beetroot seeds. After all, nothing else in these chests is edible. They're just things like diamond, iron, shovels, and other items. Well, the reason why beetroot seeds are in end city chests has to do with the update that they were added in. Basically, beetroots were added in the combat update, which is the same update that added the end cities. And what's interesting about that is the fact that for the vast majority of players, they would not have beetroot anywhere in their world, because most of their world would already be generated in, especially if they're on the console edition. And so by having beetroot inside of these end city chests, as well as some other good loot, they could gain access to this new crop item without having to worry about traveling really far out, or if they were on console, it would actually make it possible for them to do so. If you're part of a team in Minecraft, which you would most often be encountering in servers, you can notice that when you say something in chat, your name is colored, and also on the tab screen, your name would be colored. Interestingly enough though, if you name a mob, then that mob's name will also be purple. So you can see right here our pet's name is right here. However, if we name, let's say, a mob that is not a pet, like this pigman, you can see its name is white. Well, the reason for this is that this cat is allied to us, in the sense that it will scare away creepers for us, especially with things like wolves. They'll actually fight for you, and if you're damaged, they'll fight whatever hit you. And so really, this is also an interesting way of classifying behind what mobs Minecraft counts as a pet and which ones they don't. And I think that's a really great feature for things like PvP servers, and even just most SMPs in general. Vindicators in Minecraft are definitely evil, but they're not fully heartless, because of the fact that Vindicators will not target baby villagers. So they will target and try and kill adult villagers, but they will not target or try and kill baby villagers. However, if you're in Bedrock Edition and you have a Vindicator named Johnny, then unfortunately it will still kill baby villagers. However, in Java Edition they will not kill any baby villagers. But of course, once the baby villagers have grown up, the Vindicators lose any interest in their very slim amount of ethics. Frogs are definitely a very cute mob that has been added in Minecraft 1.19. But unlike a lot of mobs, this frog has a lot of detail to it, one of them being if it's swimming, the frog actually has a unique swim animation. And although it can sometimes be difficult to catch this frog actually swimming, what I find very interesting is you can see it's moving its legs and feet to swim in a very realistic fashion, and almost every other mob in the game does not have a unique swim animation, but the frog does have that, and it's kind of funny to watch this frog be doing the frog paddle through the water and swimming around. And the frog is definitely a mob with a lot of unique animations, like for instance its eating animation for slimes as well as magma cubes. And it's nice to see the detail that was put into this relatively minute and small feature of the game. You almost never see in Minecraft is the player's offhand. Now of course you can put items in your offhand, but it'll just appear with the item there, and even upon using the item, when that item is used, you still can't see the hand. However, of course, if you are holding a map in your offhand, then that does work. You can see both hands when holding a map either way actually, and if it's in your offhand you can see that your hand is right there. What I find is a little bit annoying about this feature is something you may notice is that the hands are actually not centered. The one hand is at the far left of our screen, and the other hand still has a lot of space there. and so anytime you're actually seeing your offhand for real, it is offset. A big misconception in Minecraft is that Endermen get mad when you shoot a projectile at them. In fact, they don't at all. As long as you don't look in that Enderman's eyes, shooting a projectile at it will not make it be aggressive towards you, it will simply force it to teleport. So let's say you have a pesky Enderman around your world that you do not want to be there, but you do not want to fight it either, then simply take an arrow either from your bow or crossbow, shoot it at any part of the Enderman without looking at its face, and that will force it to teleport without having to deal with that rather dangerous mob. And of course, unlike other hostile mobs, shooting it with a bow will not make it instantly target you. Just be aware, even though shooting it doesn't make it mad, looking it in the face and shooting it will definitely make it mad. Although if the Enderman is currently aggressive towards you, you can still force it to teleport by shooting it with an arrow. There are a lot of items you can smelt in Minecraft, and there's a lot of fuels in Minecraft, but there is only one item in the entire game that can function as something that you can smelt and also use as a fuel, so basically put in both slots, and that's the log. This can be stripped, and this can also be any variety of log other than of course the nether woods. Unlike, let's say, charcoal, where you just cannot cook it again although it can cook items, you can put these oak logs in both slots to smelt themselves, making this really be an interesting item. Now, of course, I would never really recommend using oak logs as fuel, and even smelting oak logs into charcoal isn't always the best idea, although it can be an interesting fuel and good for torches in emergency situations. It is still kind of funny that you're cooking something with the same thing that you're burning it with. Although I think if Minecraft was being more realistic, you would use these as fuel down here, you would smelt something else up here, and these items down here would turn into charcoal after this has cooked for a while. Either way, that definitely makes oak logs a very versatile item to be smelting with. Now, Frostwalker is an often overlooked enchantment in Minecraft, and I would definitely say it's not hard to understand why, because the only ability it has is to turn water into ice, and although this may seem cool at first as sort of a novelty, long term it's probably just going to mess up some of your creations. But something very interesting is that this is not ice beneath our feet. This item is called Frosted Ice, or basically frost, and the main difference is the fact that it's temporary. It cracks like this, having this very strange pattern form at the almost fully cracked level, like it is right here. But the other thing that it does is if you're standing still, you'll notice that it does not allow you to stay in the one place forever. It is kind of a random chance whether or not the specific piece of ice will melt, as you saw right there. But I do find it definitely interesting that we are not walking on top of ice, but rather frosted ice. And you can also not pick up this frosted ice either if you try and break it with a silk touch pickaxe. Have you ever had it that you're fighting a large number of zombies, but as you kill more of them, it seems like more and more of them keep coming, maybe just around the corner, kind of strangely, and you might think, oh, maybe there's a zombie spawner or something like that. But by the time you go around the edge and fight through all these zombies, you notice there really isn't a zombie spawner, they were just there. Well, these could be mobs that naturally generated there from the start, but more likely they are zombie reinforcements if you're in Java Edition. And zombie reinforcements, incredibly strangely, are not just limited to the overworld. And this works with even zombie pigmen. The idea behind this is that they're calling in more reinforcements or spawning them in nearby. So for instance, there was a zombie right there, and how would we get zombies in the nether? Well, the only way is for them to be spawned in by zombie reinforcements. And this is affected by some different mechanics in the game, like local difficulty, but that does more or less mean the longer you've been in an area, the more common that is. I've always found a bit strange in Minecraft is the mechanic of items floating on the ground, and how they'll sort of group up into larger collections. So for instance there, I dropped 63 potatoes, but now there's only 5 entities on the ground here, which is of course there to make there be less lag. But something you may not know is that this has more to do with the item's stackability than it does anything else. So for instance, throwing down these 7 invisibility potions right here, getting them as close as we possibly can, those are still going to be 7 unique items floating there on the ground. They're not going to group up to reduce lag like they would when you're, let's say, throwing a bunch of potatoes, and that's because they're unstackable items. They cannot stack as a floating item, they cannot stack in your inventory. These are a great part of Minecraft. But something I've found, as well as a lot of other players, is that they tend to get lost. They might start out in your world by generating in a naturally spawned in hive, or you might have gotten them from growing a tree next to a flower. What's very interesting about this is that no matter what kind of bee setup you make, they'll almost always get lost by flying too far away from their hive. And how does this happen? Well, there is a bug that's been tried to be patched by Mojang literally 3 times, which is that bees tend to, no matter what their AI says, to go north. So just slowly but surely they'll end up going north if their AI doesn't know exactly where to go, which will make it be if you oftentimes have a large number of bees and they're not in a fully enclosed shelter, they will exit that shelter, and not only will they fly away a bit, they'll basically fly away very far north over a long amount of time, so you can never find them again. Snow layers tend to be able to go on top of almost any block, things like transparent leaves, or dirt, or basically any other item in the entire game. However, let's say if we go to a snowy biome, and we can see it snowing right here. Something you may notice is that the snow layers do not accumulate on top of the ice or the packed ice, and these are basically the only 2 solid blocks in the entire game that snow does not go on top of. Now you would think the same is true with blue ice, but it's actually not. Snow layers can definitely go on top of blue ice, and even with these snow layers in my hand, if I try and right click, they will just not place down on that ice, or if I right click down here on the packed ice, they will not go down there either. It is just completely impossible to get a snow layer on top of either of these blocks, and I would assume the reason is so that rivers like this are not fully covered with snow, so you can't even tell what's ice and what's not. The functionality of dispensers has been slightly changed in Minecraft a while ago, and because of that you can make a actual working cannon. So for instance right here we'll make a fireworks star with grey, and we'll have it fade to light grey, although of course it's just for the visuals. Then on this little cannon I built here, we're going to put some firework rockets in the dispenser there, and maybe make a few more of them in here so we can have lots of shots to have. And what used to happen is we would press this and the firework would go upwards, but what will happen now is this will actually work as a functional cannon, and you can see right here we're using it to kill those pillagers. Obviously depending on the distance and the scenario that you're in, it will have varying degrees of functionality, but it definitely is a cool weapon to make considering the fact that it is a working cannon inside of Minecraft. And of course you can make it more convincing by having more fireworks stars, as the higher density of particles will make it look more like a real cannon. But it is pretty crazy to think that you can make an actual working cannon inside of survival Minecraft with no mods. When you're summoning in and fighting the Wither, most players are likely not looking at the sky, but if you are, its color actually changes. So if we look at the sky right now and place down the last head here, you can see in the background the sky is sort of turned red. There's sort of this creepy glow around the edge of the skyline, and you can notice basically where it would fade off into sort of whitish blue, it now fades off into red, and the entire sky has a bit of a reddish look to it. With the redder distance down low, you can see this effect a lot more. The clouds turn sort of grayish and spooky, and the distant sky turns to a brown instead of a white. And if we go to peaceful mode just to despawn the Wither there, you can see that sky slowly brightens right back to white, and the clouds brighten back up to sort of blue or white. And so I think it's quite a cool effect that when the Wither is summoned in, to really set the stage and the mood for the Wither fight, we have a change in sky color. And that was 20 crazy Minecraft facts. Be sure to like the video if you were crazy enough to watch till the end, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.